You're 26 years old, wiping down a bar counter in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn, on a Tuesday night that smells like spilled beer and other people's secrets. You grew up on these streets. You know every face, every corner, every social club with the painted windows where old men sit outside on folding chairs like they're guarding something. Because they are. You notice things, always have. Which guy nurses a single drink for 3 hours? Which men come and go from that corner booth like tides? Which conversations stop the moment you walk too close? It's a gift. Or a curse. Depends on the night. Tonight, a man in khaki pants sits at your bar and orders a beer he doesn't touch. He asks about one of your regulars, casual, like he's making conversation, but something in the flatness of his voice tells you everything before he shows you anything. He's FBI. You could say nothing. Most people in this neighborhood would. Not because they're criminals, because that's the code. You don't talk. You don't ask. You don't get involved. It runs deeper than blood in a place like this. But you don't say nothing. 3 meetings later, you say yes. And just like that, your real life is over. What starts next isn't a life. It's a performance. 8 years long. One wrong line and the curtain drops on you permanently. Welcome to the inside. Population, you. And everyone here wants to know who you really are. You're 26 and you have no idea what you just signed up for. You're still 26, sitting in a government parking garage at midnight, rain tapping the roof of your handler Russo's car like a drum line counting you down. He's been doing this 11 years. You can see it in the circles under his eyes, the kind of tired that sleep stopped fixing a long time ago. He lays out the plan. Keep your job at the bar. Let relationships develop naturally. Be exactly who you are, minus the part where you report everything to the federal government. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. Simple is a word for people who've never tried to be two people at the same time. Every Tuesday and Friday, you sit in this car and empty your head. Who sat with whom? Who picked up the check? Whose name got said too quiet? Geography, Russo calls it. You call it the most exhausting thing you've ever done in your life. The first year, almost nothing happens. No drama, no guns, no action movie moments. Just you, the bar, the regulars, and the slow grinding work of becoming someone people trust. You pour drinks, you remember faces, you keep your mouth shut, and you feel the weight of your secret like a stone in your chest that gets heavier every single night. But then, a man named Danny Katz comes in. Salt and pepper hair, gold chain, eyes that have seen things they shouldn't. He likes you because you never watered down his drinks and because you once spotted his flat tire before he did. A small thing, an honest thing. In a world built on careful dishonesty, honesty hits different. He invites you to a card game, not as a player, as the guy who keeps the glasses full. Invisible. Furniture. Exactly where you need to be. Furniture doesn't make people nervous. Furniture doesn't ask questions. Furniture just listens. You were 27 and you've stopped sleeping like a normal person. Not because you're scared, because your brain won't shut off. Every conversation replays at 3 a.m. like a tape you can't pause. Every name, every number, every gesture that meant something. It all loops while you stare at the ceiling. Danny Katz introduces you to his captain, Frank Palmieri, 63 years old, heavyset, silver hair combed back like a man who still respects himself. He looks at you the first time the way a jeweler holds a stone to the light, turning it slowly, checking every angle for a flaw. He asks you questions that don't sound like questions. He tells you stories that are actually tests. You pass, not because you're a good liar, because you grew up here. Your knowledge has weight to it that you can't fake. The specific gravity of someone who absorbed this world through the air, not through a briefing document in a federal building. Frank Palmieri decides you're worth knowing. In the parking garage that Friday, Russo almost smiles. Almost. Then he reminds you, the closer they pull you in, the more dangerous it gets. The more they trust you, the more they'll eventually ask of you. You nod like you understand. You don't understand yet. You're 28 and Frank Palmieri hands you a bag. Black, plain, about the size of a gym bag. He wants you to hold it for a few days. Don't open it. Give it back when someone comes for it. His voice is relaxed, like he's asking to water a plant. This is the test you knew was coming. Not a test of courage, not even a test of loyalty, a test of character. Are you the kind of person who asks questions or the kind of person who just does the thing? You call Russo from a side street that night, voice low, hand steady. He tells you to take it. The Bureau will document everything. This is exactly what they need. You are doing the right thing. You drive home with that bag in your trunk and you sit on your couch and watch a baseball game you don't see. You think about the man you were 2 years ago. Easy, uncomplicated, wiping down a bar that smelled like beer and other people's problems, problems that weren't yours. You think about whether those two men, then and now, are still the same person. You pass the test, and after that, Frank Palmieri trusts you completely. You're inside the circle, the real one, the one where the actual decisions get made. Congratulations. You've just walked deeper into something you cannot walk back from. You are 29, and you've started to notice something terrifying. You like these people. Not in spite of what they are, alongside it. Danny Katz makes you laugh with a story about his cousin. Frank Palmieri asks about your mother like he actually means it. The social club on a slow Wednesday afternoon feels more like a neighborhood gathering than a criminal enterprise, and you have to actively, consciously, deliberately remind yourself what happens in that same room on other days of the week. Russo warned you about this. He called it normalization, said it was more dangerous than any physical threat, said it was the thing that hollowed people out. You repeat the rule to yourself in the mirror some mornings. Don't get comfortable. But comfort is insidious. It doesn't announce itself. It moves in slow, like water under a door, and by the time you notice, you're already wet. Then, an old man named Sal Benedetto starts watching you. Not obviously. Not in a way you can point to. Just a particular quality of attention that follows you around the room without moving. He's been with the crew 30 years, survived things that should have killed him twice. His gut has never been wrong, and his gut is telling you something about you. You tell Russo. His face goes very still. He asks specific questions about Sal's behavior. Then he tells you to be careful. He says it in a way that means considerably more than the words. You don't sleep for 6 weeks. Not really. You perform normalcy like it's a third job. You laugh at the right moments. You show up at the right places. You are the most relaxed, most unconcerned person in every room you enter, and every second of it costs something you don't have a name for. Then Sal sits across from you one Thursday afternoon in the quiet of the social club. Espresso machine gurgling, old men playing cards in the back. He looks at you for a long moment without speaking. He says he's been in this life a long time, that he trusts his gut more than his head, that his gut has never lied to him. He pauses. He says he thinks you're a good kid, and he walks away. You don't move for a full minute. You don't know if that was a warning or a test or a genuine observation or the first move of something that ends with you in a place where nobody finds you quickly. Your coffee goes cold. Your heart hammers like it's trying to escape your chest. That uncertainty, you carry it for the rest of your time inside, every single day. You're 30, and Frank Palmieri makes his first mistake. He trusts the wrong man, a businessman. Polished, legitimate-looking, expensive watch, smooth handshake. He brings this man into a specific conversation about a specific financial arrangement, illegal in ways that are very easy to prosecute. You're in the room. You give Russo every word, names, amounts, structure, timeline. He receives it with a stillness that tells you he's working very hard not to show how significant it is. The prosecutors start building something that will take another year, but from this moment, it's inevitable. Frank Palmieri doesn't know this. He continues operating with the confidence of a man who has never been caught and has therefore decided he cannot be caught. And you continue being the person he trusts most. Your hands start shaking at random moments, in the shower, making coffee, sitting in the parking garage with Russo. Your brain is running 2 operating systems simultaneously, and neither one is getting enough power. Russo notices. He starts asking different questions at the end of your sessions, not about intelligence, about you. Are you still you? Some nights you don't know the answer. You're 31, and Danny Katz gets arrested. Not on anything you gave, a separate wire, a different operation. His voice on a recording saying things that need no interpretation. They arrest him at his home on a Tuesday morning, in front of his wife, in front of his youngest daughter who is 9 years old and doesn't understand what's happening. Frank Palmieri tells you with a controlled grief that's more devastating than anger would be. You express the right things. You mean some of them. That night, you pull over on a dark side street and call Russo. Not from the garage, not with your usual control. You tell him you're struggling. That's it. That's all you say. Russo is quiet for a moment. Then he says, the day this stops being hard is the day you need to get out. The difficulty is proof you haven't lost yourself completely. You don't know if that's true, but you need it to be true that night, so you let it be. You're 33, and it's over. The arrests happen on a Tuesday morning before dawn. Coordinated, simultaneous, timed so nobody can warn anybody else. You watch from a hotel room in New Jersey with Russo beside you, coffee cups between you. The news on a screen neither of you have seen before. The cameras show the social club, the painted windows, the folding chairs outside, empty now, too early, too cold. Men in handcuffs walking past a place you spent years of your life in. Frank Palmieri is arrested at his home at 6:47 in the morning, in his pajamas. For the first time, he looks like an ordinary old man. Russo shakes your hand. He says you did something important. He chooses the words carefully, like he measured them in advance. You nod. You don't say anything for a while, because important doesn't cover it, and neither does right. Both words are true and also completely hopelessly insufficient, the way a photograph of a place never captures what it actually felt like to stand there. 17 people convicted, sentences from 11 years to life. The FBI director calls it historic. You read about it from a new city, a new apartment, a new name on a set of documents. Alone, because that's what's left. You're 34, and the wiring is different now. You walk your new neighborhood and automatically clock the sight lines, the parked cars, the doorways, the patterns that don't fit. You can't turn it off. You don't think you ever will. You don't have close friends, because close friends ask questions, and the true answers are classified. You think about Frank Palmieri sometimes, about Danny Katz, about Sal Benedetto's eyes in that quiet afternoon and what he saw or didn't see in you, about the first night in Russo's car and the rule you told yourself over and over like a prayer: don't get comfortable. You get coffee at a corner place in your new city. You sit by the window. You watch the street. Old habit. The same eyes that memorized card games and read conversations and mapped a criminal empire from the inside. Watching ordinary people live ordinary lives they'll never have to explain to anyone. You gave 8 years to a version of yourself that had to be buried the moment it was no longer needed, and nobody will ever know your name. That's the job. That was always the job. You finish your coffee. You leave exact change on the table. You walk out into the sunlight. Just another face, just another person, and you disappear.